I'm a lesbian who voted for Trump. These people that I'm actually friends with who aren't actually aware of my political stance, we're all advocating for this violence, and especially violence around, well, killing of the president.
Guys, I asked you to send in voice notes spilling the tea, and it is piping hot. We're going to react to messages from listeners and hear some really shocking stories and things that are going down in this bonus episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where I take on the craziest ideas from across the internet, our media, and our politics, all from an independent perspective. Up first, this woman sent me a message telling me about how her friends won't stop talking about killing Donald Trump. Take a listen and buckle up, because this is a crazy one.
Hey Brad, I'm Aiden. I'm 22 and I'm freshly out of college. I wanted to tell you a little bit of story with a question at the end. The main thing is this is tying around the whole political assassination culture. See, to start off, I'm a lesbian who voted for Trump. And one of the most hardest things I've gone through was, especially after the 2024 election, was slowly unfriending all these people who were saying, if you voted for Trump, kill yourself. If you voted for Trump and you're a lesbian or a woman, you turn your back against women. And that was just painful. So to my own surprise, at my own group, these people that I'm actually friends with who aren't actually aware of my political stance, we're all advocating for this violence, and especially violence around, well, killing of the president. My main question is that, should I call them out on this stuff? Because at this point, it started off as a joke and it's not a joke anymore. And I don't know what to do because, you know, some of the stuff they say literally threatens my own father, who is a Republican man, and, well, hi. Thank you, Brad. I love your podcast.
Wow. So first of all, I'm so sorry that's happening to you, and it's just a sign of the times and how deranged everything has become that people are actually treating each other like this because of political disagreements. When I opened up the voice notes, guys, I got over 100 from you guys just in a couple of days, and so many of them were about this, about friends and family cutting people off because of politics, and it's so tragic. But this one is particularly disturbing because, setting our differences aside, it is not okay to support political violence. It is not okay to want to kill people or wish harm on them because you disagree with them politically. And that's like a very basic premise or fact here. Now, I'm a big believer that sometimes when you have friends or family members of very different political views, the best thing to do can be to just not talk about it. You're not going to change their mind. They're not going to change yours. But in this case, I do feel differently. Because at some point, there is a line in the sand where you have to stand up for your values. And if they are openly wishing harm on people like you, people like your father, if they're openly talking about killing the president of the United States, if they're just saying they wish it would happen, that's one thing. If they're actually talking about it or talking about doing it, you need to contact the police. But if they're just joking about it or saying, oh, hope it happens soon or something like that, you should call them out. And it doesn't have to be, you putting them on blast. You don't have to send them a text paragraph about how terrible they are. I would simply say, how would you have felt if Republicans talked that way about Biden? I thought we all believed in democracy. I thought we all believed that in this country, we get to pick our elected leaders and we solve our differences at the ballot box, not with bullets or other kinds of acts of violence. And I would challenge them in that kind of a way and make it clear that, look, you're talking about violence, because it sounds like they're talking about violence against Trump supporters, not just Trump, about people I love. And I also think you should be able to tell them, if you're truly close with these people, that you are a lesbian Republican. That shouldn't have to be a secret. There's nothing wrong with you. You're entitled to your opinion and your perspective and to vote for whoever you'd like. And if they really, finding that information will make them disown you and hate you, that's tough. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's an easy call. They were never your real friends, anything like that. But at some point, if you're hiding a big part of yourself because you know they'd hate you if they knew about it, they already hate you and they just don't know it. You know what I mean? So I think when it comes to something this serious, there is a point where it's not just a disagreement you can just ignore, right? Like, we disagree about abortion, so we don't talk about it. Okay. Like, I have family members where there's issues like that where we both feel strongly we're not going to change each other's minds. So why debate it and argue about it? Just let it aside. When we're talking about violence against people, when you're talking about this kind of drastic, dangerous rhetoric, I do think at some point you have a responsibility to call it out. And I would recommend doing it in the way that I said. And if they can't handle that, if they lash out at you, or if they kick you out of the group or unfriend you or whatever, ultimately that's on them. And you'll be able to know that you did the right thing. So my heart goes out to you, and good luck dealing with what sounds like a really toxic social environment right now. I'm really sorry you have to go through that. AI is the future, and content creation is no exception. If you're a creator or you've ever wanted to get in on the game, well, it's never been easier, thanks to today's sponsor, OpusClip. Finding the right moments from your long-form videos to clip for short-form content is really hard, and editing them down into the perfect reels that can go viral is so much work. Or at least it used to be before I discovered OpusClip. Clip Anything is their newest AI-powered feature, providing creators with unmatched control to find and clip the best moments in our videos. For example, I put one of my recent videos in, and it pulled out a perfect moment for me to share as a short-form video, edited and analyzed for peak viral impact. Look, if you want to support tariffs, if you want to say the stock market doesn't matter, I disagree with you on both fronts, but we can have that debate if you're actually holding those positions. But that's not what people like Benny Johnson are doing. They're just flip-flopping. Clip Anything's time-saving AI capabilities are astounding. From B-roll generation to reframing to filler word removal to one-click audio enhancement. Get started on your content journey now. Just visit www.opus.pro/clipanything. It's really never been easier. Up next, we have somebody calling in about their rather tumultuous love life. Take a listen.
My name is Bill. I recently broke up with my boyfriend, assigned female at birth. He was a very much left-wing individual. I consider myself of a right-leaning moderate. How would you recommend trying to talk with these individuals, add some nuance to your conversations with them, and do so in a way without being accused of being a Trump apologist? Unfortunately, my relationship didn't work, and I was just kind of wondering where I went wrong. Not only in my relationship with my domestic partner, but with Democrats all over the place. Thank you.
Well, there's a lot there. And there's part of this I will not be able to help you with, which is how do I talk about these things or raise questions without being accused of being a Trump supporter or whatever? Honestly, bro, they're going to accuse you of that. Some people are going to accuse you of that no matter what you say, no matter how much you criticize Trump. The minute you're not on their side, they're going to blast you as, I didn't know you were a mega right-wing nut. I get this all the time. It's obviously not true in my case. I didn't endorse Trump. I don't support Trump fully. I agree with some things. I disagree with others. And I give my honest opinion. But some people will always say that because they're just still trapped in that kind of tribalistic, partisan thinking. So I wouldn't get too hung up on how do I get them to not say that. Some of them will. And it just is a sign that maybe their mind is closed off. Now, I'm sorry your relationship didn't work out with your trans boyfriend. Now, I will say that the idea that if you're anywhere on the right or you're a right-leaning gay person, that a relationship between you and a trans person was going to go well might have been kind of naive on your part. Not all trans people. Maybe if it was a trans conservative or a trans Republican, which do exist, a lot of trans people are very left-wing in their politics and have kind of this social justice ideology that for me would have been a flag that even if you are open to that, personally, I wouldn't be open to that. That's just my preferences. But if you are, open to dating a trans guy, I would make sure that you're at least somewhat on the same page politically, or it's doomed to fail. And I'm not sure there's a way that, especially in this current climate where trans issues are so contentious and so toxic, that there's a way around that. So I would say that you need to be on the same page on that front. And just in dating in general, I like this idea that, we can be a Democrat and a Republican and we can still get along, and we've been married for 40 years. And I hear from people and I support that. I think it's wonderful. I've got nothing against it, but I do think it's fine to not want that for yourself. I do think it's okay to say, actually, I want and need a partner who shares similar values to me. Not, we agree on every political issue, we vote the same way in every election, but we generally agree on what things we value. We value hard work, self-sufficiency, independence, freedom, family, whatever it may be. Or maybe you value other things. Maybe you value community, justice, fairness, whatever those values are that animate you in life, you should be on the same page with your partner. And so I would say it's really important to lead with those things. Not necessarily in a dating profile. You don't need to plaster like moderate Republican in all caps. because some people might just be instantly dismissive of it who wouldn't be if they would get to know you, but you should be upfront about it pretty early on. And you should try to find somebody who you don't have to hide part of yourself, where there's not part of yourself that you feel like, oh, I need to kind of keep that down because I wouldn't want them to be upset with me. That shouldn't be how a loving relationship is. You should be able to talk about things and have disagreements and not always have the same viewpoint and be okay about it. So I would just honestly imply that as a litmus test. Apply it as a litmus test going forward in your friendships, your romantic relationships, just early on. Try to test, is this person open-minded to differences in opinion? Because even if they're a liberal or a Democrat, there still are many that are, or maybe they're an independent or they're not, you're to their right. Whatever it may be, just test for that openness, because it's really important in a relationship, in my book, if you're not entirely on the same page, or try to find someone who is, and maybe cast a wider net. Maybe try to meet offline or meet online outside of your area. I'm a big proponent that, you know what, if you can find somebody who's really perfect for you and they're halfway across the country, you can move. You can get a new job. That's so important and so rare and so hard to find, especially if you're in a niche sub-community like gay Republicans or gay moderates, where most of the community is not on the same page as you. So maybe cast a broader net as well. And I hope it works out for you, my friend. Up next, we've got a voice note from somebody who is not very happy with me and thinks that I'm the problem. Let's take a listen.
Hey, Brad, as far as I can tell, you pick out like the worst representatives of the people on the left. You make them influencers. You give them voice with complete disregard to the possibility that they could be paid shills, or they could just be people who have mental health problems and really don't need to be picked on as a form of entertainment. But for sake, man, you are causing this sort of escalation of violent and polarized views by punching down. So to be accusing the other, violence is wrong, correct? Why do you need it to be violence is wrong from the left? You make this trash, man.
Well, thank you for telling me how you really feel, but I just think the whole premise here is wrong. I don't make the people I criticize on my show influencers or influential. I'm not picking out, I mean, maybe once in a while I'll show a video of somebody who's a small account, but like if you look at just recently, I cover a lot of this guy's videos, Spence Waugh. His videos get millions of views. He has 17.8 million followers. Me on YouTube, I got like 200K. So I'm not punching down. I'm not making these people influencers. The same way, half the people I talk about are major cable news hosts or elected politicians. When I play clips disagreeing with Jasmine Crockett and her craziness and her ideas and her toxic rhetoric, I'm not making her a star of the Democratic Party. They are. They're literally uplifting her as a new leader. So then I'm reacting to that. Am I using these people for entertainment content and enjoyment? Yeah, I am. And I don't feel bad about that. I don't apologize for that. I disagree with you that first off, I never encourage violence against anyone. I even try. I'm not perfect, so I'm sure I've slipped up. I try to avoid even making personal insults against people and just talk about their ideas and why they're wrong. And maybe once or twice I've crossed that line and I'm not perfect, sure. But to say that I'm bullying them or punching down on them, heck no. A lot of these influencers have way more followers than I do and already are reaching millions of people with this message. I'm just doing some counter programming, pushing back on it, and yes, entertaining people with it. And if you don't like it, that's cool, but I'm not going to feel bad about it. And this criticism, it doesn't hit for me, babe. Not the way that you think it hits. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comments if you have thoughts on any of the things that we've discussed so far. If you're enjoying this series, if you'd like to have me do it more often, I'll also link the voice note feature if you want to send me one in the description. And now we'll take a look at a note I got from a longtime listener whose comments I've seen and who I appreciate asking me about a rather unique personal dilemma she has. Let's take a listen to this.
Hey Brad, my name is Jayla Starr, and my question is that I used to do corn back in the day in my early 20s, about 10, 15 years ago, and I still dabble in OF right now. But I also have two daughters, and I'm wondering, what is your advice? What would you say to them, when they ask me about it when they get older? Hopefully, no time soon. They're only 10. But yeah, I was wondering what you would say. I know you're a libertarian, so yeah, but what would you say to your children if you were in this position? I had hoped that maybe it would be forgotten and buried under the internet by this time, but it has not. It is still very much present. People still bring it up to me. So yeah. My name is Jayla Starr, and I'm a big fan. I love you so much, and I really appreciate everything you do. You're so entertaining. I love your show. I watch it every single day, multiple times a day because I don't have cable. I watch it all the time. So thank you so much, Brad.
Well, first off, thank you for your support, and I appreciate it. I know a lot of y'all who send in voice notes are loyal listeners, and it means the world to me that I'm able to do this, and it's only because of you guys. So first off, I'm not judging you at all. It's your life. It's your body. Do whatever you want. Make whatever decisions you want. And guys, in the comments, I don't want to see people being nasty or judgmental. Keep it chill. Keep it constructive. But I will say, this is why I personally advise people, especially young women or young gay men, against doing OnlyFans or against doing adult content. Because for some people, they think they're going to make a lot of money, but really only the top ones make a ton of money. And then most people barely make anything from it. And then it will follow you for the rest of your life. Like there's no such thing. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Once you show hole on the internet, you can't unshow hole on the internet. And that's the dilemma you find yourself in. What I'll say is this. Your daughters will find out. There is no chance ever, 0%, that they just don't discover it, that it gets buried in the internet. And I know they're only 10, but, and this is really sad, kind of a sad indictment of where we're at these days with society, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, some of them do see pornography on the internet. Their friends do show them adult content. They're exposed to it at increasingly young ages. So I would sit down with them very soon and I would tell them about it in whatever way feels right to you, rather than wait till a friend teases them about it or a bully teases them about it because someone finds out. That will happen. Honestly, it's just a question of when more than if, in my view. So I would take an affirmative stance, decide how you want to frame it, explain maybe why you chose to do it, what you think, if you regret it, if you would not do it, if maybe try to steer them if it's something you don't want them to do, maybe try to emphasize the downsides of it to them. But I think you gotta bite the bullet and talk to them about it before someone else shows them it or bullies them about it, because sadly, with the state of digital America that we live in, unless you're gonna homeschool your kids and live in a cave, they're probably going to find out, and it will be better. It won't be great. It's not going to be great, but better to hear it from you with your context and your framing than from some bully on the school bus. Good luck to you, and thank you again for your loyal listenership and support. Up next, what do you do when your sisters are both communists? Let's take a listen to this really interesting voice note we got from one of our audience members.
Hey Brad, my name's Luna. I've been watching you for maybe 3 years now. I just want some advice on how to go about me and my sister's relationship. I have two. They both identify as communists. One is 20 and the other one's almost 19. I mean, I do think maybe they just need time to mature a little bit in the things that they believe. I can understand some of their beliefs and might agree with them on a lot of points. However, if they knew all of the things that I believe in, they would most likely cut me off. So I just would want to know your opinion on how to deal with something like that, because I love my sisters. I truly do. And I don't believe in alienating or cutting off family members who think differently than I do. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a lot there, but let's start with an upside. I was worried when you told me this, and I'm still worried for them, but when you said they're 19 and 20, I got a little less worried, because the good news is they still got mushy brains. All right, those brains are still underdeveloped. The adults are not in the room with us, not really, like they're legal adults, but there is hope for them yet. A lot of people were communists or Marxists or crazy in college and then grew out of it and became normal people. Trust me, when they leave college and that first tax bill hits, the communism is going to be leaving their body real quick, potentially. Maybe not. Some people stick with it, but far fewer. What I would say is this. I don't think that, especially with people that age, especially from an older sibling, you really, if you come in too ham-fisted and try to like correct them or teach them or set them straight, it's only going to engender resistance and pushback, and they're not going to actually be open to it. So just like an older sibling relationship or a parental figure, they're still probably in that young phase of rebelliousness where they're not going to want you coming in and like correcting them, and they'll push back on that. What I would say is a couple things. Keep an open relationship and connection with them. Avoid at all costs getting cut off and estranged, and just try to maintain that relationship and sneak a little bit of connection to reality or to different perspectives into it. Not a lot, don't come on strong, but just maybe open up things in conversation or let them know that you're not on the same page on some things, or that someone they love and care about does see the world differently. That kind of thing where they still have a tether to other perspectives or reality is much better than just being totally cut off from them, both from a personal standpoint, but also from the standpoint of changing their mind. It's almost like the way that cult experts recommend having a relationship with someone in a cult is to keep contact, not cut off contact, but just have that tether. So that way, if at some point they do feel themselves maybe wanting to explore or move away from it, they're not cut off. They have a lifeline there. And maybe this would be hard to navigate. Try to expose them to the viewpoint of somebody in real life who lived under communism, because there's a lot of them and they're still with us. People who lived in the Soviet Union, people who escaped Maoist China, all of these things. I would try to expose them to somebody who actually lived it. They can't dismiss it as, oh, they're CIA propaganda. Like, no, they were there. So I would try to introduce them, or in some sort of way broaden their perspective to include something else. But think about it, it might be something to try to do over a longer term, because short term, if you just start sending them PragerU videos from people who escaped communism, they're not going to buy that. But maybe if you got to know someone in real life and introduce them casually in some way, it could start to get through to them. Otherwise, I would say just keep the doors open, keep that relationship going, and try to hope, cross your fingers and hope that those brains develop a little bit and the communism leaves their bodies. I'm rooting for you, and I'm rooting for them. And I would say that not all hope is lost quite yet, thankfully. Up next, speaking of young people, we've got a question from a young listener who wants to know how he can avoid getting brainwashed. Let's take a listen.
Hello, I'm Colt. I'm going into college next year. I'm a senior in high school right now. I'm going into economics and poli-sci. I'm majoring in poli-sci, but I'm going into a very leftist college. I was wondering how you would suggest to keep your political lining straight.
Well, thank you for the message, but I'm not sure you should keep your political lining straight, or your orientation or your values set in stone. If you're just a 18-year-old high school senior, I think you should go to college with an open mind. And maybe, be aware that you're probably, depending on the college, going into a very left-wing echo chamber. Maybe they're right about some things. Don't entirely close yourself off or try to fortify yourself from any of the liberalness entering your body. It's almost what I hear. Maybe it's not what you meant, but it's almost what I hear. I would say don't do that. Go in with an open mind. However, this is the problem that plagues so many college students, even when they're in an economics department or a political science department, where you think they'd be exposed to all sides. They're not. They just hear the left-wing perspective, and everyone around them is agreeing with it. And there's this social pressure of all the college students like, wait, how could you be pro-life? How could you oppose gun control? How could you not want socialist healthcare for everyone? What? That, to avoid, what I would recommend is building a media diet, an intellectual and media diet, where you are still consuming right-of-center viewpoints and conservative arguments and independent libertarian arguments on everything, on all the topics you're studying. So don't just read the books assigned to you by your economics professor, who's probably going to be a progressive Keynesian economist. Also read Thomas Sowell, Milton Friedman, contemporary free market economists, and their critiques of the kinds of people that will probably be on your course reading list and that sort of thing. Keep reading right of center news and opinion, whether it's like Wall Street Journal editorial board, National Review, whether it's watching Fox News from time to time, whatever it may be, whether it's watching really smart YouTubers who criticize both sides. Keep in touch with all of that, and then bring those arguments to campus and debate and challenge and be outspoken. I know a lot of people want to just go along with the crowd, and I would have this at my college where I'd speak out in a class and I'd be like 15 verse 1 in the class debate, me arguing against affirmative action or whatever it may be. And then multiple students would come up to me afterwards and be like, thank you for speaking out. I totally agreed with you, but I didn't want anything to say anything. I don't want my friends to hate me. And in hindsight, I feel kind of bad for those people. That's kind of a weaselly and sad way to go through life. afraid to say what you really think because of social backlash. Now, maybe there's some situations where like the potential consequences are so extreme, but just like your peers not liking you, at some point you got to stand on business or what you believe in. And so I would challenge you to not totally fortify yourself against everything you're hearing, but simply maintain a balance of perspectives. And when you go to a left-wing campus environment, that will require very intentional and persistent habits and seeking out alternatives, because they won't be in your readings. I mean, or they won't be on your course list, at least not most of the time. They won't be represented in your classroom discussions, but you can still make sure that you're hearing all the arguments and then go wherever that leads you. Don't stay rigidly attached to everything you believe at 18 years old, but don't fall into an echo chamber either. Up next, this young woman left me a message telling a really horrifying story about something that happened to her a few years back when she was just in the 8th grade. Take a listen to this.
Hello, my name's Celia. I am a sophomore in high school right now. I dealt with some crazy shit in 8th grade. We were told that I was told I was trans because I simply started liking more masculine things by the school. And my parents were like, no, you're not. And like the school kept telling me, yes, you are. And it just became this whole big thing to the point where I kind of tried to become trans, which was a very big mistake in the long run. I figured out within like 3 months, actually thanks to you and Buck Angels and Blair White's talking, that I wasn't actually trans. This was just an agenda that was being pushed on me. And then when I started speaking up about my beliefs against the ideology and stuff, I started being called homophobic, transphobic, and just overall a bigot and stuff. And it still occasionally happens. I'm a sophomore now. It all started in 8th grade. But there's a lot of us who still believe that a lot of this is just bullshit, and we disagree with almost everything that the Biden and Kamala administration has done.
Well, thank you for your note. And first and foremost, I am so sorry you had to go through this. Like, the regressive nature of a lot of the gender ideology stuff and this extreme pendulum swing we lived under can't be talked about enough. It's okay to be a tomboy. It's actually fine to not like love makeup and pink and want to be a princess or whatever. Like, why are we even back to that? But now you actually, and you know, maybe they're even well intentioned. These mental health professionals in schools, these guidance counselors, these teachers. Oh, you could be trans. But the thing that's so frustrating about that is there has always existed a tiny percent of the population who, from a very young age, felt like trapped in the wrong body and felt like they were born the wrong sex. And those people, you know, if that persists through puberty and adulthood, are actually probably best suited to live as if they are the other sex, to be what we would call transgender. But they did not suddenly discover that in 9th grade after never feeling discomfort with their body or their gender or their, you know, style or whether they like to be masculine or feminine. It was there from a very young age. And it is normal as an 8th or 9th grader or what have you to feel bad about your body, to feel awkward in your gender or your sexuality or these other things. It doesn't mean you're transgender. And in fact, very, very rarely will people suddenly feel gender dysphoria. And that's truly a lasting thing that isn't going to go away. And I fear that a whole wave of young people in the coming decades will come out. We just don't have good data on this stuff right now, detransition or regret rates or anything like that. There's really basically no actually high quality data. But I fear we're going to have a wave of this, especially female to male, because there's something about this period in young females' lives where, you know, they feel uncomfortable with their body, they hate being sexualized and objectified by the world as a young woman. And so the idea of, oh, maybe I'm actually a boy is appealing to them, especially when it's pushed by authority figures or adults in their lives who maybe they're well-intentioned, but boy, they should really know better. So I'm so sorry you went through that. And as far as people calling you a bigot, don't listen to them. Continue to speak out. Continue to talk about your experience, because you are not alone. Lots of other people have had very similar experiences. And as long as you know that in your heart you don't hate anyone, you're not nasty towards anyone, as long as you are always kind and you speak truthfully, but you don't bully or demean people, then they can call you whatever they want. Those words are losing power because they've thrown them around like candy on Halloween for years now. So as long as you know that It's not true. You're not homophobic. You're not transphobic. You're not, you know that you treat people kindly and you don't call people slurs or insult them or demean them. Then continue speaking out. And if they call you names, let them tell the air, they run out of air in their lungs, because that's losing power at this point. And it is more important for you to speak the truth and share your experiences and stand on business and live by your values than it is for you to not upset some people or not have some people call you names. That's my take on it. But I'm really glad that your parents didn't just immediately embrace this and push you down this path, because God, who knows, maybe by now in another life or another scenario, you would have had a double mastectomy on the books, or already have had one planned for next year. That's actually a thing that thousands of young females in this country have had done and have had happen as minors and have been pushed towards this. And many of them will regret it. So I'm glad this didn't end terribly or tragically for you, but thank you for speaking out. Keep doing it, because these experiences are real. And as much as trans activists like to say they're not, and these sisters are statistically super rare, we actually don't know that. We don't have good data. And there are, I fear, going to be a lot more stories like yours that come out in the coming years. All right, guys, that'll be it for this bonus episode. Let me know what you think of this. Did you enjoy this? Do you want me to do this kind of content regularly? Please do hit that like button if you haven't yet. Do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Do comment with your thoughts. Let me know if you have any opinions or advice that I left out, or advice I gave that you disagree with. I do definitely want to know. So hop down to that comments section. And if you want to send in a voice note for the next time I do one of these, telling me a story about your life or your experiences and asking for advice, the link is in the description. So please do reach out. And with that, we'll talk again real soon.